Welcome back. Now with your 5-day weather forecast, here's Jessica LaBerge.
It's wet and windy today, but you should be able to exchange your umbrella for sunglasses by the end of the week. Today will be cloudy with a mix of rain and flurries. Expect a high of 3 with the temperature dropping to 1 degree this evening. The sun should peep through the clouds tomorrow with a high of 5 and a low of -1. Friday will see a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 2 and a low of -4. Into the weekend, we'll see the trend continue with a mix of sun and cloud. Saturday will have a high of 0 and a low of -5, and Sunday will be slightly colder with a high of -1 and a low of -5. With the temperature dropping steadily, it's clear that winter is finally on its way. That's all for weather. Now back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Jessica. And now turning to international and national news. China is taking no chances with WikiLeaks blocking access to the whistleblowing website. Chinese internet users will be diverted to the search engine Baidu if they attempt to access wikileaks.org. In one WikiLeaks document, a Chinese diplomat describes North Korea as a spoiled child, while another document outlines China's contingency plan barring a North Korean collapse. China is one of the world's biggest internet policers, using a firewall to prevent access to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak will retain power after allegations of widespread election fraud. The National Democratic Party won a massive majority yesterday, while the leading opposition party, the Muslim Brotherhood, didn't retain any of its previous 88 seats. Only 10% of the 41 million registered voters turned out yesterday, which is far less than Egypt's usual 25%. It's reported that foreign election monitors were prohibited from regulating the election, while the media was banned from doing live broadcasts during the election, and hundreds of Muslim Brotherhood supporters were arrested.
Back at home, usually you'd call the fire department in the case of arson, but in a New Brunswick town, 3 firefighters were found guilty of the crime. A total of 5 people were charged with acts of arson in the village of Doketown. The crimes took place over the past year, and the town's fire chief says 3 out of the people charged were volunteer firefighters. The fire chief would not release the names of those who were part of the fire department. All 5 are scheduled for a court appearance on December 13th.
Even though the Maple Leafs are losing, it hasn't stopped Rogers Communications from wanting to buy the most profitable NHL club. In what could be the biggest transaction in Canadian sports history, Rogers has bid over $1 billion for the majority stake in Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. The deal would also include the Raptors, Toronto FC, and the Toronto Marlies, as well as Leafs TV and Raptors TV. If the deal goes through, Rogers would become one of the most powerful sports enterprises in North America.
And now with more sports, here's Heather Alford.
I'm Heather Alford, now for your sports update. The Humber Hawks women's volleyball team has notched another win. The undefeated Hawks soared past the Redeemer Royals in last night's game. The women displayed undisputed dominance as they easily took the match in 3 straight sets. The women remain the only undefeated team in the OCAA Western Division. The Humber Hawks men's volleyball team saw the same success, though it didn't come as easily. Coming off their first loss of the season, the men struggled through 5 sets. The Redeemer Royals kept the Hawks on their toes, but the Hawks rallied in the 5th, taking the deciding set 15-7. The Hawks are tied for first place in the OCAA Western Division with a 7-1 record. Now looking to the world of pro sports, the Toronto Raptors will host the Washington Wizards at the ACC tonight. The Raps may be able to capitalize on the Wizards' weak road game performance. The Wizards have lost 20 of their last 22 road games. Tip-off is at 7. And on the ice, the struggling Toronto Maple Leafs continue their downhill slide, losing 4-3 in overtime to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Leafs led the scoring until the last seconds of the game. Marty St. Louis banged in the tying goal with just 8.7 seconds left in regulation. In OT, the Leafs could not hold off the Bolts. After a heartbreaking giveaway by Leafs defenseman Luke Shen, Simone Gagner went the other way, and with a wrist shot on the 2-1, sealed the win for Tampa. Next game is tomorrow night as the Leafs welcome the Oilers. And there are 2 Canadian NHL matchups tonight. The Edmonton Oilers head east to Montreal to take on the Canadiens. Game time is at 7. And in a Western face-off, the Calgary Flames will play host to the Vancouver Canucks. Puck drop is at 9:30. And lastly, Canadian Golden Boy and Pittsburgh Penguins captain Sidney Crosby has been named McLean Magazine's Newsmaker of the Year. McLean says they chose Crosby because of his gold medal winning goal against the Americans at the 2010 Winter Olympics. They say the goal united Canadians and summed up the Canadian Olympic experience. That's all for sports. Now back to Pam and Simon in the studio.
Thanks, Heather. Don't go anywhere. Coming up after the break, Amy Douglas has all your entertainment highlights.
Coming up in entertainment, Tiger gets the Law & Order treatment, A Christmas Story goes musical, and Snoop Dogg raps for the Royals. All that and more after the break.